I'm Melissa Torres.
And I'm Marmie Leach.
And this is Movin with Mel and Marm.
All right, we're doing this whether we're ready or not.
That's right.
It's been a minute.
It has. Now that fall is in season, we're out of the craziness of summer.
Yeah.
To get back into it.
Yeah, we took a little break and I'm excited to be back into it.
Me too.
It's been I'm really excited to be back in the routine of things.
Me too. So sports have started up.
Yeah.
And last night we had practice and I'm working. Practice starts at 6. So I stopped about 5:30, took them to practice. Actually, we were really late to practice, so I stopped later than 5:30.
You?
Yeah.
You were late?
I know. But actually it wasn't my fault. Nicholas had decided to go for a walk and stopped at a friend's house and didn't come back. So when I was like, okay, it's time to go, I had to find him.
Oh my God.
So that's why we were late. But I hadn't helped him with homework before because I was working.
Yeah.
And he still needs help doing homework. I can't just say go do it. He needs, especially with the reading stuff, just to make sure he totally understands the directions and everything. So by the time we got home from practice, it was 8:00.
Oh my gosh, but he's exhausted. He's ready to go to sleep.
Yes.
So when do you do homework?
I know.
That's really hard.
It's a dilemma.
Because what time does he get out of school?
He gets out at 3:15. But which is great. If you're a stay-at-home mom or you have flexibility that you only work in the mornings and you can do homework at 3:15, great.
Yeah.
But the majority of people can't do that. Yeah. So then it's okay.
Well, even for a stay-at-home mom, if you've got what if you've got a newborn or multiple kids? I mean, right. I think any parent, it's hard.
Yes.
I mean, props to my parents. I don't know how they did it.
Yes.
There was a lot of yelling. There was one point where they tried to get my brother to tutor me in math, and that was they've since said as later they're that wasn't the best parenting choice we made, because he would yell at me, you're so dumb, and I'd be he says I'm dumb.
I have thought about asking Maddie to help with homework, and I have played that exact scenario, and I'm
it's a delicate balance. I feel it's a you don't want to put a parenting role on another kid, right?
Right.
That's hard. So,
right.
But at the same time, you also have to get the homework done. So how do you balance that?
At one point, he was like, Mom, I want to homeschool next year. And I looked at him and I was like,
absolutely not.
That's not even a consideration. Seriously, we can't even do homework together. You want to homeschool?
I'm they don't make homeschool anymore. It's not a thing anymore.
Well, his cousins are homeschooled.
Oh, okay. So he knows that that it's real.
And I mean, if you homeschool your child, I highly, highly respect you. It will never be my calling. Yeah. I will never. Well, there's some things that I've done that I said I would never do, but I don't think that I will ever be a homeschool mom.
Yeah, I don't think I could.
I wish I could. I really wish, deep down, my dream life is to live on a farm and homestead and grow all my own food and homeschool my kids and have this amazing outdoor life where my kids are riding horses. And
are we talking about Ballerina Farm here? Because she does have a $5 billion pocket little lump of money to use as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Caveat.
Yes.
Which I love her videos. They're amazing.
I've seen some of them. I don't actively follow her.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah.
And making sourdough bread and all those things. I would love to do that. But in my free time, am I making sourdough bread? No.
No.
Am I growing a garden? I've tried multiple times.
Are you raising chickens?
Yes. I am raising chickens, and it's very low maintenance, and I may or may not have to throw out the eggs because I'm not collecting them every day.
She's doing it, though. She's doing it.
I'm doing it. And dude, I do have fresh eggs on my counter that we use.
Love it.
I have not had to buy eggs in a very long time.
There you go.
Yeah. So, I don't know if I should say this, but our chickens are on the side yard. So our kitchen overlooks the side yard.
Uh-huh.
And so when we have like scraps, like the chickens love the watermelon rinds. So I'll like cut it to where there's watermelon left and then the rind. And then they'll like eat it until it's like paper thin. They love
that's awesome.
it. So when we have like all these scraps, we open the window and like toss them out to the chickens.
What's wrong with that? That's better than throwing it in the trash.
I know, but like really I probably should walk around to the side yard and put it in. But we just like open the window and throw it.
I heard chickens love it when you toss things to them.
Well, good. Well, one of our chickens is very aggressive.
Oh, does he fly up to the window?
Yeah. Yes.
Obviously, it's a she.
She has flown into the window, and I'm like, luckily she stopped at the windowsill and didn't like fly around my kitchen. But I'm pretty sure I have a recording of that happening, or like at least a picture. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she is ready to. She's like, I know where the good stuff is, and I want to be there.
She's the smart one.
She's a smart one, but she's very aggressive.
She'd be the one in that movie Chicken Run where they like escape. Is that? Do you remember that?
I don't remember that, but she also would make sure that none of the other chickens escaped. She's very aggressive.
Oh, okay.
She'd
keep everyone in line.
Or, yeah.
Or eat them.
No. So we had a Brody chicken. We're going to just spend this whole episode talking about my chickens.
we don't need to talk about rates. We're going to talk about chickens, okay?
So one of my hens became Brody, and that means that they sit on the eggs because they want to have little chicks, right? So we went to Rooster's Hardware because that's where you can get the cheap chickens at Tractor Supply, but you can get some cute chickens at Rooster Hardware. And so we went and got 2 chicks to give to the Brody hen. Uh-huh. So I took her, put the chicks underneath so like she thought that they hatched in the eggs that she was sitting on.
Oh, good for you.
Thanks. Well, this aggressive chicken was like one of the chicks decided I do not like this chick.
She knew.
That chick did not survive.
She was like, this is an imposter. Wait, did she kill the chick?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. Yeah.
She knew it was an imposter.
Well, she just is not, and now she's mean to the other one. The other one is like a young adult now.
She's just misunderstood.
She's mean. She's a Tractor Supply chicken.
She's Pamela. She don't mess around. Well, what's that chicken's name?
I don't know. She's
Karen. She's a Karen.
We did name the chickens on one episode, but remember I said that I could never remember.
I know.
I remember one of them was Betty.
Betty's a great chicken name.
Yeah, it was Betty,
yeah.
I think. But that's really the only one.
All right. So we have decided in our break that we are going to start formatting our episodes a little more. Yes. And we will start the episode out with a current event. Mm-hmm. Then we will talk about our topic, and then we will take a question from the audience.
Yes.
So our current event for today is talking about commission.
Yes, hot topic.
Super hot topic. The media went crazy with this earlier this year, and there's a lot of confusion, to be honest, among the buyers and sellers.
Right, because there were a lot of clickbait headlines that weren't really accurate, but they were good to talk about. Yeah. They got a lot of attention.
Yes.
So the changes went into effect August 17th, like officially. And so what has actually changed?
There are actually only 3 things that have changed. So first of all, buyer's agent commission cannot be advertised in MLS. Mm-hmm. So it used to be that on the MLS page, it would say what the seller was paying to the buyer's agent.
Yes.
Now that's removed. So what it means is we get 50,000 emails a day stating seller is paying 3%.
Yes. Yes. And it's more work on our part to like, okay, we're going to show a house. We need to call and confirm what the seller is paying. We need to confirm, all these little details where it used to just be in the listing.
Yeah. The point of this was to protect consumers better because just like any industry, there are good apples and bad apples. And there were claims that agents out there were only showing properties that offered the full 3% or 2.5%, whatever is the norm in your market. Mm-hmm. And so they wanted to curb that issue and make it so that it's not advertised. The thing is, for our buyers, we still need to find out what is being paid.
Right, because people can't work for free.
Right.
So, yeah, one way or another, and that brings us to what else has changed.
Yes.
Now we do have to have a buyer's representation signed in place before we show any properties.
Yeah, before we meet you at any house, we have to have this agreement. It's required.
Yes. And that outlines what we get paid and whether or not the seller pays it. In most cases, it's still business as usual. The sellers are still offering buyer agent commission. In this market, there's actually a lot of advertising of bonuses for agents because it's a little bit of a slower market right now. But we have that outlined of, okay, this is what I'm charging for my services. And then going through, we verify before we show if the seller is paying that, so that if there's not and we need to figure out a solution, we can discuss that ahead of time.
So the last thing that was changed is the listing agreement with the seller. So it used to say seller will pay this percentage, whatever's the norm in your market for a listing. And then the listing broker would then pay the percentage that would belong to the buyer, their amount. I think I'm not saying this very well.
Well, yes, but that still is in the agreement. It's just the wording has changed a little bit.
What you really need to know, I think what consumers want to know is what kind of changes affect me. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're a buyer, the only thing that affects you is that you're agreeing to what your realtor is going to be making. But now we're agreeing on what we're going to be making, and how that's going to be paid is typically from the seller. It's still business as usual in the sense that most sellers are offering buyer's agent commission.
Right.
So it's really just the nuances of the communication that's changed. So our topic today is something everybody wants to know right now.
When are the rates going to drop?
We do not know.
No one knows.
Nobody knows.
And that's the biggest thing. No one knows. So I majored in economics in college. Mm-hmm. And one of my professors said, because forecasting, that's actually what I wanted to do when I grew up. I wanted to work for the Federal Reserve and do forecasting. And one of my professors was like, if you predict something right one time, retire. Yeah. So that just goes to show, there's a lot of variables that can go into this. So what most experts agree on is that rates are not going to be back in the 3% and 4%.
Definitely not. That was a special time. So we need to stop thinking that that's going to happen again, because it's not.
Yeah. So they'll probably settle, maybe about a point or so lower than where they are now, because rates have already come down significantly from their height. They peaked at over 8% last October, and now we're, somewhere in the 6s.
8% was rough.
Yeah.
That was a lot. That was hard. It was hard for anyone to feel like, should I move forward? Should I not?
Yeah, it was. And there are strategies. So here's one thing. There have been strategies, and there are still strategies that you can buy down the rates. You can do a 3-2-1 buy down. Mm-hmm. So you could get a lower interest rate even now, depending on how you structure your loan. And there's a lot of great, that's something to talk to a lender about. There's a lot of really great strategies to get those payments lower. But now we've settled, and they're hopefully going to continue going down, but it's not going to be a significant drop.
Yeah. We don't know when it's going to happen. Would we love it to happen? Absolutely. We want everyone to get the best deal possible on your house, on selling your house. That is our goal. We are your champion. We are here to do that. But we don't know when it's going to happen. So what I do know is that I had a buyer that I was working with last month, and we were looking at properties. We were talking about maximizing credits and offers. We were talking about really negotiating with the seller. For what they were, it depends on what you're looking for, but for what they were looking for, it was a true buyer's market. And we went under contract on a property. We got a lot of incentives on this property. Well, we did the inspection and it wasn't great. And so we decided we weren't going to move forward. We did try to negotiate, but what we wanted and what the seller wanted were pretty far apart, and we weren't aligned on that. In the time that we did our inspection and sent an amendment to negotiate, we had, like a few weeks ago, that random rate drop where they went down like at 0.5%. And people went crazy. So in that amount of time, the house we were under contract on that had been on the market for months had a backup offer. And the other house that we wanted to make an offer on, because we were going to terminate the one that had the bad inspection, the new house we were interested in supposedly had multiple offers, and we went over asking price, and we did get that house. But so we went from like all these incentives on this house that ended up having a bad inspection to paying more for another house, just in a 0.5 point drop. So that's what I do know. So if you're not interested in competition, waiting is not a good idea for you, because right now there's not a lot of competition in the market, and the inventory has really increased pretty drastically.
Right. And if you're looking at the numbers, what you can negotiate, in credits for a buy down or potentially off the list price, or if it's priced with these market conditions in mind, the difference between what it's priced at now and what it would be priced at in a more competitive market, you're probably looking at, it's better to buy now than to wait for that drop, the difference between what your payment would be.
Right. Like if you're saving a few $100s a month and then you stay in that home for 5 years, like maybe you stay in the home for 30 years, but the likelihood of that is slim. And even if you stay in the home for 30 years, you're probably not going to keep the loan for 30 years. Like eventually you'll pay it
at some point,
or you'll pay it off.
Yeah.
So let's say you stay in the home for 5 years. If you add up like what that actual savings would have been over 5 years, and then you compare it to a home where you could get a deal right now on the market, it's probably the same or an even better deal to buy now than to wait. So, and I'm not saying every house you can get a deal on. It depends on what you're looking for.
It depends on the neighborhood too.
Depends on the neighborhood. If it's super updated, it's probably still getting multiple offers. Like, it's not every house can get a deal, but there are some deals to be had.
Yeah, I think the biggest deals are the houses in areas where there's a lot of new construction. Those resale houses there's a ton of inventory. Yeah. And competing against a builder, because the builders have been offering really high buy downs, like huge credits, and because they're huge corporations, whereas an individual it can't compete with that.
Yeah, they've got to keep the investors happy, so they're willing to like take more losses than an individual.
Yeah. But even in Dallas, like the houses it's the in-between houses.
Yeah, we said it before and we'll say it again. The in-between houses.
The in-between
houses. The middle of the road.
Those are the ones that, as a buyer, if you have the vision and the cash or the ability to like live with it as is until you have more cash to remodel it, that is where you are going to maximize your investment.
Yeah. And let's say like you are not a visual. You do not have the vision. We will find someone to help you get the vision. Like, it's not just all or nothing. Like, we'll figure out a way to get the vision to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will transfer the vision to you.
Yes.
All right. We are going to go to a question from one of our listeners. This is our last segment of our new format for our podcast.
And this is the question that we are getting all the time.
Yeah.
And it is, what the heck is going on in the market?
Yeah.
How is the real estate market?
Yeah.
And the answer is, it's slow.
It's slow. Yeah, it is slow.
Yeah. And it's not so much that the prices are like collapsing and, falling out and things. That's not, it's that less things are happening.
Not everything is like it's not dramatic. It's just that a house might be sitting on the market for 2 months. That's what it is. And there's just a lot more things happening to try to get people into the houses.
Yeah, marketing. I just met with some sellers that will be listing their house in the next couple of weeks. And the marketing strategy is just, we're going to have more time. So there's some good things about this. We're going to have more time to market, to really we've always done videos, but it might be under contract before we get to play it more than a couple times on social media. Now that's not going to be the case. Now we're doing more, this is a historic home. So we're going to do some fun stuff, reaching out to some historic home
content creators.
Yes. Yeah. And thank you. And all of that. So it's just getting a more robust strategy, and more work is needing to be done to get people in the door.
Yeah. It's great. But the thing is, just because it's a slower market doesn't mean it's a bad time to sell. If you put it this way, if what you're planning on purchasing costs more than what you're planning on selling, wouldn't you like to get a better deal on the more expensive one than the less expensive one? So even if you might be getting a little bit less for your sale right now, you're paying less for the purchase.
Right. And that in Texas makes such a big difference in your property taxes over the life of you living in that home.
Yeah.
Especially when we were having these situations where people are paying $100,000 over list price. Think about $100,000 over living in that house for 5 years at a 2.5% property tax rate. Makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does.
So it's not just, you have to look at the whole big picture when you're looking at buying of it's not just the rate. It's not just, what you can sell your home for. It's a whole big picture to evaluate.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, it's been fun being back on the podcast with you, and I'm excited for some really fun ideas we have in store.